Welcome back to a new week on Out of the Bubble podcast. I hope you've all had a lovely weekend enjoying the first signs of spring. What a difference it makes to just see some daffodils and blue sky, especially when we consider what's going on elsewhere in the world. So today I am joined by Karen Sutton. Karen is the UK's first grief and loss coach specialist, specialising in helping those widowed early in life. Karen's life was turned completely upside down in 2016. Her world fell apart when her husband Simon, aged 43, died suddenly, leaving her with young children. And a whole journey that she had, no preparation for, and she could never have foreseen such kind of traumatic circumstances to her life. What she's learned through that process, she is now passing on to others and helping other people through this grieving process to come out and live an empowered, fulfilled life after having to deal with all this. This may trigger some people. If you're going through this right now, this may not be the right time for you to listen to this episode. Find a time that's right for you. But if you're ready for this, grab a coffee and let's talk to Karen. So welcome, Karen. It's lovely to have you on the podcast. How are you?
I'm really good. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, we were saying before we started this conversation that our social media, we can love and hate it, but the fact that we make all these connections, I wouldn't have met you if it hadn't been through another connection on social media. So I love how it really can bring people together, can't it?
Yeah, do you know what? It's been so powerful for me in my journey. It's played a huge part in it. I've said to you before, I do have a love-hate relationship with it. I think it can be as damaging as it can be connecting and positive and hopeful. But I think we really have to consciously choose how we use our social media, and we don't always. But it's a powerful tool if it's used in the right way, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've already done an introduction, but how do you describe yourself to people? How do you introduce yourself?
Well, on a professional level,
yes.
It's funny actually, because people say to me, "What do you do?" And when I first sort of started doing what I was doing, I'd kind of dance around the edges of it a little bit because I wasn't entirely confident, I suppose, in what I was doing, and maybe felt like I was playing at it. But now I will say I'm a widow coach, but I have to follow it up with usually essentially grief and loss coach, but I specialise in supporting widows and widowers and surviving partners through their grief. Because I'm the UK's first widow coach. It's not something that is known. People wouldn't know to search for it or that it even exists. I mean, I have to say, 3 years ago, I didn't even know what a life coach was. It's quite a new concept. So, when I say to somebody, I'm Karen Sutton, I'm a widow coach, I do have to follow it up because I kind of get a bit of a blank look.
yeah, and I think it does surprise me, and we'll go into this in more later, I'm sure, but it really just surprised me that you are the first to specialise in this. This is not a new subject, and it's taken all this time for people to actually realise that spouses need support.
Huge support. I know it's do you know what? Grief, I think, is just so ridiculously unacknowledged and just not talked about enough. We're not equipped to deal with loss in our lives. We hide away from it, and I think through my own experience thought, this is ridiculous. Like, we are all going to grieve. We all do grieve in life, not always through death, but we will all grieve a death, a loss of a person in our life. And if you're in a relationship with someone, you've got a 50% chance of becoming a widow or a widower, or a surviving partner if you're not married. So I kind of go, why are we not kind of given a little bit more awareness around this? It's important. It's really important.
Yeah. So we have to start back at the beginning. I have put a trigger notice in this episode, because if someone is going through this right now, it might not be the right time for them. They need to pick and choose when they can listen to subjects like this. But your experience started back in 2016, didn't it?
It did, yeah. It was the 11th of September It was a Sunday morning back in 2016, like you say. And just a normal morning. We'd had some friends round the night before. We'd had a barbecue. You know, it's that kind of end of the summer, isn't it? Trying to get those last barbecues in. We'd had a few beers. And it was lovely. And my husband kind of said to Mark, who was one of the friends that came round, should we go for a bike ride in the morning? It was his usual kind of weekend de-stress. Would go out for sort of 4 hours, 5 hours at a time maybe, and do a big ride just to kind of regroup, I suppose, and release, you know, the stresses of the week. And I kind of took the mick because we'd had a few beers and thought, how are you're never going to go and do that. But he did. He got up 8 o'clock on the Sunday morning, went out for his bike ride, said goodbye to myself and the kids. And that was the last I ever saw of him. He had a heart attack, a cardiac arrest, whilst on the bike ride. They tried for an hour to resuscitate him. They couldn't. And the first I knew about it was when Mark, our friend, had come to the house, bless him, to tell me he had died. A very, very surreal experience, not something you ever think will happen. It had crossed my mind because obviously Simon went out cycling and you do, so, you know, like, because he went for 4 to 5 hours sometimes. You'd think, oh God, is he all right? You know, as the time goes on a bit, is he all right? Is he coming back? And you start to kind of think dark thoughts. And we had talked about our own deaths, but you still don't ever really think it's going to happen to you. You know, it happens to other people, doesn't it? We have 2 girls and they were 9 and 5 at the time. I had to tell them that their dad had died. I had to go and tell Simon's mum her son had died. And then, of course, there's the extended family and all of our friends. And it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, just going from the death to the funeral, just all so surreal. The passing of time becomes so monumental. You don't want it to pass because you don't want to get further away from your person. And I remember not wanting to go to bed on the Monday night because I couldn't say I saw my husband yesterday, you know. And each day and week and month and year that passes, you feel that pull. But then equally there's this element of, God, I want to be further down my journey because when's this going to go? When's this going to get better? Yeah. The pain, the despair, the devastation. It's so physical. It's so mental. It's huge. It's heavy. It's, again, you're not prepared for that kind of loss, devastation in your life. I am so lucky. Obviously, this was pre-pandemic. I had all my family and friends around me. They picked us up. They carried us. I don't know what I would have done without that. You know, people were incredibly supportive to myself and the children. And we worked through it. We did work through it. And I did a lot of things really well. I did a lot of things quite badly. But I think it's a bit of a learning curve, isn't it? And you have to understand that there's no guidebook. God, you wish there was. I remember like aimlessly searching the internet and groups and wanting to meet people. I wanted answers. I wanted to know how to do it, how to do it better, how to get to the end of it. When was all this pain going to go away? How do I support my children in the best way that I can? How on earth do I do life without my person? And you have this fear that your best days are behind you. You know, I was 39 when Simon died. He was 43. And I thought, do you know what? Whatever happens to me, I didn't believe that I would ever find true happiness in my heart again. And very early on, after Simon died, you know, and I mean, within a couple of days, I said to my mum and my sister, I do not want this to define myself or the children in a negative way for the rest of our lives. I am not becoming a victim of life. It's not what I wanted. I knew it wasn't what Simon would have wanted. I didn't know how I was going to do that, but I was like, this isn't going to destroy us. You know, this isn't going to be an excuse for us not living our lives, for us not achieving great things, for the children to not do well at anything that they chose to do in their lives, because we've been through something horrendous, traumatic. And like I said, I didn't know how I was going to do that. And as much as I had that desire within me, there was still that kind of voice inside that goes, it's never going to be as good. You're never going to be able to feel like you have a family of your own again. You're never going to feel as safe or as loved as you were at that point again. You know, you're never going to be as happy. You tell yourself all these things, which actually I was wrong, you know, and I'm glad I was wrong. But it's a process. You know, I'm 5.5 years into my journey now, and it takes a long time. It takes a really long time, and it evolves and it changes as you go through that. But essentially, I have now reached a point in my life, which I feel like I've been at actually maybe for the last 18 months, a year to 18 months, where I feel truly happy. I feel like I know where I belong in the world. I feel happy within myself. I'm very content. I'm very at peace. I still love and miss Simon. I always will. I still have days where I cry and I grieve and I feel sad. But I have found a belonging in the world. I found my place. And I have to say, I am now more fulfilled and aligned with who I am in life than I ever have been before, because it's just taught me so much. It's taken me on such a journey that I have grown and I have become who I'm meant to be, and I'm happy with that person. I didn't have that before. So there's a lot of gratitude in it, and that's not gratitude that Simon died. I wish I could have learned all these lessons in a different way, but I couldn't. I don't have the power to change that. And you have to reach a level of acceptance with that, which again isn't hard, because we like to personalize the things that happen to us in life, don't we? You know, why me? Why has this happened to me? What have I done? Why have I been so bad? Why am I being punished? We all do it. It's natural. But we have to learn not to. And then within that, there's that level of acceptance that stuff's going to happen. You know, you're going to go through tragedies in life. People are going to die. You might have financial ruin. You might lose the career of your dreams. It's, you know, and some things are a lot harder to live with than others completely, you know. But how people's lives pan out, there are a lot of things we can control. There are a lot of things we can't. And I think it's learning what those things are and coming to peace and acceptance with the things that we can't, which is not easy. But
no, and I can't begin to imagine what you've gone through. And you know, actually my closest friend had lost her husband when she was younger, and so I've seen it, but it's not the same as going through it. And there's that sense of, from a friend's point of view, that helplessness, because you want to be able to take it away from the person that's suffering and you can't. How easy was it for you to link up with other spouses, other women that had been through this, or other men that had lost their partners? Because I guess having that connection of someone that's actually right in the middle of it is really helpful.
Really helpful. I remember just asking everyone that I knew, like, does anyone know anyone that's been through this? And people would say to me, oh, I know someone. And I would go and meet people that had, I remember even my GP said that he had somebody, a friend of his, who had lost a husband, and gave me her number. You know, it's just that you want to meet other people that are going through or have been through something similar. And of course, I found Widowed and Young, which is a peer support group, a charitable agency set up for those who have been widowed under the age of 50. So I joined WAY, they call it, Widowed and Young, and actually it scared me a little bit because there was so many. You know, I'd lived in this bubble for 39 years of my life, knowing that people died and that you know, as you get older, we die off, but also knowing that tragedies happen, but hadn't been personally affected by it. And then you join something, you know, where these people come together, and there was thousands of people. This is just in the UK. And all of a sudden there's that realization of all these young people that are dying, and leaving their partners, their spouses behind. And it was brilliant because, you know, it normalized what I was going through. I was able to ask questions, and, you know, there's little subgroups of people that have got children, people that haven't got children, people that are wanting to date, and people that aren't. Do you see what I mean? So that it's kind of different conversations can happen in different groups at a time when you're ready. And it was very, very helpful. But I think what I found for me was, you know, I'd found all these people, we talked about our experiences, and we'd come together. I'd been to counselling because so much comes up. There's so many uncomfortable thoughts and feelings and behaviours that you kind of almost don't recognise yourself. You're feeling things towards family and friends that are just being so kind and supportive to you. But sometimes you get angry with them, you get frustrated, you hate them, you're jealous of them, you resent them. And you know, no, I don't want to be this person. What's going on? So I had to go and talk about that with my counsellor and kind of make sense of it. And I did. And it was all very, very helpful. But I got to a point in my journey where I was kind of like, well, now what happens? I'm 2.5 years in. I've had a few sort of bouts of counselling sessions. I've met other widows and widowers. I've, you know, joined Widowed and Young. But what do I do? Like, who am I? Where do I fit in? What do I want from the world? You know, I remember sitting with some friends quite early on in my grief, saying, I'm not going to let this change me. You know, because I believed if I allowed excuse me, if I allowed it to change me, I would become an angry, resentful, bitter person. And I didn't want that. So I spent a lot of time fighting the changes. You know, I was clinging on to everything that I had in my life with Simon. And I didn't want to let it go. And I didn't want to accommodate all those changes that were inevitable, really, because of what I believed. But actually, what I had to do was accept that it had changed me. It had changed everything about my life and how I experienced the world, how I thought, what I enjoyed doing, who I enjoyed spending my time with. You know, it was just, the effect is huge. And I think it's that we don't understand. So whilst you're kind of sort of grieving you, the person that you were, and trying to figure out the person you're going to become, you're in this middle ground. And it's so isolating and lonely and frightening. You just feel lost because you don't have answers. You have a lot of big questions, but you don't have answers. And nobody really knows how to give you those either. You know, we can all talk about things until the cows come home, can't we? But it's like, I need some action here. I need to figure out something. And nobody's really telling me how to do that. So I decided to get myself a coach to help me with my health. At this point, I think I was about 42. I'd spent a lot of time partying and drinking and eating the wrong foods. And you know, my husband had died of a heart attack at 43. I had 2 children, and I thought, right, come on, let's sort this out. So this guy was a life coach, but, you know, specialized in helping you sort of get fitter and feel healthier. I didn't know what a life coach was at this point, by the way. I was like, you what? But it did. You know, I got fitter, I got healthier, I lost weight, I started exercising, but not just that. I started working on my mindset. I started to really inquire about me, who I was, my values, my belief systems, my thoughts, you know, creating that awareness, noticing what was going on for me, how things made me feel. We get caught up on a hamster wheel of life, don't we? You know, and we just keep doing what we've always done because we know it and that's what everyone else does. So that's kind of just what we carry on doing, right? Why would we ever change it? Why would we ever question it? But you have to. Life doesn't stay the same. You know, like whatever you're going through, whatever happens to you in your life, you change, you grow, you evolve. And there's that element of acceptance that these things are happening, and really helping yourself to understand who you are at your core, what fulfills you, what makes you happy, what makes you sad, what tools can you draw from when you're feeling a certain way to help you work through it. And within 6 months, I have to say, I had completely turned my life around. I didn't have all the answers. Life wasn't a sort of all flowers and parties and rainbows and unicorns. It's not that. It just understanding me better and feeling like I was on the right path.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? Sometimes you're kind of floundering in life, kind of like this
go through the motions.
Yeah. And you think, this doesn't feel right. I don't know why, but I don't feel like this is where I should be heading, but I don't know where else to go. And it's just that investment in you, I think. And,
you think you need to give yourself permission to feel like you could invest in yourself again?
Oh, that's the hardest thing, isn't it? Because when do we ever do that? We don't ever do that. It's like we're just not good enough. Surely we can't do that. That's self-indulgent. That's selfish. All those things we tell ourselves, again, the thoughts, the belief systems that we hold. And it's like, do you know what? You are worth it. 100%. Because when you work on you, when you feel better on the inside, like everything on the outside feels better, doesn't it? And I know that's a bit of a cliche and one of these kind of woo-woo sayings, but it's true. It's out there because it's true. And as a result of working on me, I became a better parent. I became a better friend. I became a better person, and I just felt better, more importantly. And I think it always comes down to doing what makes you feel good.
And going through this whole process, you could have, and you started to feel like you really were getting your life back on track, and it was a different direction than you thought it was going to be, but you were on it. It could have been very easy for you to go down a very different route and almost stepped further away from what you've been through. But you've actually really tried, you've embraced all that. And so what was the decision to make you want to help others and do what you're doing now? Because it would have been so easy to not have done that.
And you know what? I nearly didn't. I was a nurse and a midwife before Simon died, and I didn't go back after he died for logistical reasons. And, I was able to spend some time with my children. So I did. And then there came a point where, my registration was going to run out, and I thought, what am I going to do? And I toyed with the idea of getting my prescriber's license as a nurse prescriber, so I could do things like Botox and stuff, and work from home in this lovely room that I have, and make a bit of money and do that. But when you're like, I could do that, but it wasn't quite right. And then I thought, well, maybe I could sort of buy a property, do it up, like rent it out, sell it on or something. Because I was looking for a project. I was looking for something that would give me purpose in life. I'd kind of looked after the girls for 2.5 years, and I thought I need something, but I wasn't necessarily convinced that midwifery and nursing was what I wanted to go back to. And then I thought, maybe what about being a party planner? I love partying. So I arranged a big black tie do party auction charity event with a friend. It was huge, to give me a taste of it. And I was like, no, it's not quite what I thought it was going to be. And in the end, I just came to me that I have figured something out here. I have been on this journey. I have hit the depths of despair and sorrow, and I have somehow managed to crawl my way out of it, figure out who I am, what I want. And of course, I'm in all these other groups, listening to these other widows and widowers talking. And, they're all sort of saying, I'm 10 years in, I'm 8 years in, it still hurts so much. I don't feel like and I thought, I need to get this out there. I need to help other people find that there's no need for people to suffer in their grief as much as they do. And I'm not saying that I have a magic answer, that I can take all the pain away, that I can tell people what I did and that will work for them, because it's not that. It's helping people invest in themselves, find a more positive way through their grief, understand who they are, what they want, what they desire, so they can get on their own right path and find their own way. And it lit something within me. Do you know, I just thought, gee, doing my values, I realized that I loved helping people, I love to do good, and obviously it's why I've done my nursing midwifery before. I love working with people. I was passionate about what I'd been through, and it just all felt right. It felt aligned. It ticked the boxes. I could still do it from home. I knew absolutely nothing about starting a business or technology or how any of it worked. But what I had learned in my grieving journey was that I can do anything I want to do because I can figure it out. I may not have all the answers to things here and now, but my God, if I can figure out how to do life without my husband, I can figure the rest of it out as well. And it's kind of become a bit of a mantra of mine, like, we'll figure it out, you know. And that's what I like to do, essentially, is walk alongside people whilst they figure out their way, just as that moral support, that guidance, the person to ask the questions, to give them the tools. And also they know that I've been there and I've done it, so I'm not kind of teaching it from a book. It's through lived experience.
And what I love about you is you do show that, you know, that there is a positive life afterwards. You can thrive again. And so often when we talk about death and we talk about grieving, it's always, obviously it is a very negative you know, emotion to have to deal with, but like you say, you don't have to be chained to it for your life, and you give people hope, I think, which is really special.
Yeah, and I think that's so important, because there's this general misconception that grief equals pain and sorrow and sadness, and it does. Like you say, it's incredibly painful. It's a horrendous experience and it hurts, but it doesn't have to be like that forever. You know, grief can also mean love and gratitude and hope and growth and meaning and purpose. There's so much about it. It teaches us so much about life. And you know, if we can open our hearts and our minds to those lessons, again, not easy, because we do become attached to our pain, because we believe that our pain is our link to our person. But it's not. It's a link to your suffering. You have many other links to your person that actually are positive. But we become entrenched in this belief that it's pain. Pain equals grief, and grief is our love, and that's the only way we can do life after someone has died. And it's not true. You know, I it's part of it. Absolutely. I'm not trying to minimize it or diminish it. We have to go through the pain and feel it. You know, we can't box it up and push it away, but it doesn't have to be there permanently forever.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that, because I think it's so important. Hey, you work with men and women, don't you?
Yeah.
Have you noticed a difference in the way that men and women go through this process?
Do you know what? I think, yes, I do. And it's in, obviously I work with women a lot more because of a few reasons. I am a woman, and I think sometimes women prefer talking to women. There's more women statistically than men, because sadly more men die young than women do. And I think women are more inclined to reach out to get the support they need than a man is. So I do have more female clients than male, but I do work with men. But what I've noticed, and also what I've read about as well, that other people have noticed, is that men and women do grieve very differently. Men are far more forward focused. They're more restorative. That they're not so, I guess, I mean, they do acknowledge the past, but they don't maybe sit in it as much as women do. But women women will sit more in the past than want to look forward. They find it harder to want to take those steps forward. Men, I think, and men have more of a confidence maybe to do their grief in the way that feels right for them. Whereas women, I think, are very held back by their own expectations of the others around them, what they think other people are thinking of them, so people's judgments. Whereas men tend to worry less about that. And they will find their way and are more able to look forward. And I don't mean all the time, obviously, you know, they still hurt and go through pain and loss. You know, they feel a lot of the similar things, but women definitely, I think what we do as women, and I say this as a woman and as someone that has done this, and it's not, and I'm not saying all women, but we layer our suffering far much more so than men do. with the thoughts that we have, with the fears around what other people are thinking of us, with the self-judgment, the self-criticism. And men also do that, but not as intensely. And I genuinely think we could learn a lot from them, as much as men could learn a lot from us about sharing their emotions and being more open and vulnerable and talking about their truth. So we do it differently, and sadly it does happen, you know, when a couple goes through a loss, so a loss of a child or something. It's not often the loss itself that causes the breakup of the relationship. It's the judgment of each other's grief.
Yes.
Because we believe that our way is the right way, the only way, and we can't understand always that someone else will do it differently, and that's okay. And you know, when we're hurting and the pain is so raw, it's hard to, you know, when emotions are high, intellect is low, isn't it? And we can't sort of make logic or rationalize things very well.
That's why these conversations are so good, and that's why, you know, on your podcast, you know, having these conversations is really important, isn't it?
Yeah, they're so important to have, and I think people are scared to have them a lot of the time, and I get it. Even when I talking to you now, I know I'm saying things that are going to annoy people, and I'm going to get people's backs up some, because people, wherever they are in their grieving journey, we're ready to hear different things at different times. And I understand that, and I respect that. And not everyone will resonate with what I'm saying, depending on where they are in their grief journey, depending on their experience. And that's okay. You know, these beliefs are my own beliefs. So I'm not saying they're fact. And what I love about having these conversations is that I will say something. You may have an opposing view or belief or idea, but I want to hear it, because then that educates me to another way of thinking, because I know I'm not right all of the time. I know that my way isn't everyone else's way, but through conversation and through talking and understanding, we can see how diverse we are as people, how there are so many different ways to do life and you know, deal with life's experiences, and have that understanding and that empathy for each other to go, yeah, I get it. I get why you're doing that. But because we don't talk about it, we then see how someone else is behaving, or we might make an assumption or a judgment based on a small snippet of their life that we see, without really understanding what's going on. And I think when we can have these conversations and share our different thoughts and beliefs and ideas, it opens our minds to different ways. And I think it just makes us more empathetic and compassionate and just kinder people.
Yeah. And is that what kind of thrives in your Facebook groups? Tell us about your Facebook group, because I know that's
yeah.
really
yeah. So I've got, it's in fact, Widowed and Rising. So like you've said, I do really like to bring the positive aspect to it, you know, and I really like to create a safe space for everyone to share what they're going through, their ups, their downs, their goods, their bads. Because, you know, it is horrible, and I want people to have a space where they can share their truth and what's really going on for them. But equally, I don't want it to become a space where it becomes heavy and depressing, because that can happen when you've got a lot of people. I think there's about 1,300 people in my free group. And, you know, if all those people in there are coming in with the pain and the anguish and the sorrow, it becomes a heavy place, and then we don't want to do that. So I go in every Monday. We have a half an hour chat where I talk to them, and I give them tools, I give them ideas. We talk about different ideas, belief systems. I challenge their thinking a little bit, because we believe our thoughts, and it's kind of going, but is that a fact? Last week I kind of said, right, let's create a wall of optimism. So everybody share a positive story, something that you've learned, you've created, you've achieved in your grief journey. And oh my God, it was amazing. And people were saying, I hadn't realized I'd done so much. And we don't acknowledge the good and our accomplishments, because we're so focused. You know, our brain has a natural negative bias. We will always go to the bad, the thing we haven't done very well, the thing that's hurting us the most. And it's kind of like, right, let's acknowledge what you've achieved, what you've done here, because that's really important, and it can go unnoticed. And it did, and it offered people hope. And that's what I like to do is kind of, yes, there's the bad. There is the bad. It's there, it's real, and it's horrible. but there's also things that you're doing, you're growing, you're evolving, you're achieving, you're reaching parts of you that you never knew existed, you know, and that feels good. You know, I remember in my grief journey, I learned how to tow my caravan because Simon always towed the caravan. A towing course, I took my girls on our first trip. I felt invincible, you know, because you're like, I never thought I'd be able to do this, and I did it. So that's kind of what I like to create in my groups.
And how can people find that, Karen?
So that's, if you just go onto Facebook and look Widowed and Rising, you will find it there, and you can join Just to Answer. It is just for widows and widowers. I do ask, you know, some people that are relatives or friends of have asked to join, and I want it to be a safe space for people that have lost a partner. So I do decline those, which, you know, isn't easy to do because I love it. I love that people want to support their friends and relatives by learning about it. I think that's wonderful. I really do. But then I would always point them in the direction of my free, you know, Facebook page and Instagram page or my podcast, because there's a lot of information there as well.
And what if somebody's listening now and they really can resonate with what you've been through and want to know more about you? Have you got a website they can come and find you?
Yes, yeah, I've got a website, so it's literally karensutton.co.uk. So and you can book in a call with me on my website. I do a free 15-minute call for people, and you can see what services I offer there as well. Amazing.
And I could talk to you for so much longer on that. You know, I think you are such a, I love the fact that you're really helping empower other people through a really difficult time, and in such a positive way. And I'm so glad to see that you're thriving now through after what you've been through. So thank you so much for sharing your story and your journey, because I think there'll be a lot of people listening that will be able to relate to it. My last four questions that I asked my guests. So do you have a book that's really kind of touched you or moved you or inspired you?
Yes, and this kind of question threw me a bit, because you know, you kind of think, well, I've read so many books, and there are so many, and I think I'd say the one I think I probably enjoyed, really enjoyed, because walking and talking and just being with myself has become really important to me in my grieving journey. And Jonathan Hoban has written a book called Walk with Your Wolf, and he's a psychologist, and he has clients, and he talks about how walking therapy can really help, either on your own or with someone, and just, you know, there's a lot in there about the questions we ask ourselves and how we can deal with life's challenges. So that was really good. But there's also a book that I'm reading at the moment called The Choice by Edith Eger, who is absolutely incredible. She's 96, I think, so I can't remember, but she's in her 90s. She's an Auschwitz survivor. She's a psychologist, and she is incredible. And she talks about her time in Auschwitz and how she dealt with it, and obviously her life thereafter, and her just, I guess, her belief that we all have a choice in life. And this is something that I fundamentally believe. We all have a choice in how we choose to respond to the things that happen to us. And we can choose to be a victim and sit in our pain and say, why me? It's not fair. And you're entitled to do that, because it is really hard sometimes. You know, I'm not judging anyone that does that, but we also have a choice in kind of wanting to learn a new way to survive, to thrive. Yeah. And to create something. So I find her, and she wrote another book as well as The Choice, and I can't remember what it's called, and that's really bad, but basically it's like the 12 steps of how, you know, she gives you 12 steps as to how you can become more resilient and create a more meaningful life. So, and that was brilliant. So yeah, I kind of talked about 3 books there, haven't I? Sorry.
No, that's great. No, it's brilliant. We're always up for book recommendations, so I shall add those to the list. And what about a piece of music or a song that has really touched you or that resonates with you?
I know this. Do you know what? It's a bit cheesy, but I'm kind of known for my love of Gold by Spandau Ballet. I have been all my life. Every time it comes on, you know, when you're just like, Gold. My kids do it now, we do it. And 6 months after my husband died, I turned 40, and my sister created a video of Gold, of all my friends and family singing little snippets of it. She put it all together, and I just treasure it and I love it. And that song, I don't know, it just makes me feel good. It just makes me want to get up and grab life and feel good. it's just a lovely song.
Yeah, love it. It's funny actually, because Gold had a different thing for me, because I love the song too, but my daughter was homeschooled for a while because she wasn't well when she was younger, and her tutor was in like the local amateur dramatics, and he sang, we went to see this show and he sang Gold, and he was fantastic, he was really good. But my son was 2 years younger than him, younger than my daughter, and when he used to come to the house for lessons while she was in the study, my son would walk past the door and say Gold. So whenever I hear that, I always think of him being really cheeky. It really makes me smile.
See, that's a lovely memory, isn't it? Yeah, it is lovely. Love that.
Thank you for sharing that.
I'll think of that now too.
What about who inspires you?
Oh, so many people inspire me. I have to say, I think my late husband has been a huge inspiration to me, just in how he lived his life. And I feel like he's inspired me more in his death than he did in his life, because I think I really stopped to take notice of that. And as a follow on to that, I think my two children, I think that they teach me so much every day. I think they're absolutely incredible. They inspire me to want to be the best person that I can be for them, because I truly believe that children do what you do, they don't do what you say. So we have to lead by example and teach them to be the person we'd like them to be in life by modeling that ourselves. And they do inspire me, that, you know, they give me so much. And I guess as well, they remind me of my husband, and that there are parts of them that, you know, he lives on in them, I suppose. So between them, I think they hugely inspire me. I could go on with many other people, but I think for the most part it's Simon and my girls.
Thank you. And I'm trying to encourage women to be more complimentary about ourselves, because I think it's something we still struggle with. So if you were to pay yourself a compliment, what would it be?
If I was to pay myself a compliment, I think I'd say, do you know what? You're doing good. Yeah. You know, you are working hard to be a good person, but to not expect too much of yourself, to not be perfect. And you are, you know, I do think I'm not perfect, like I say, but I'm a good person. I'm a kind person. I'm doing my best. And I have this kind of inner belief that I can do this. I can do life. I can face what comes my way. It won't always be easy, but I will do it in the best way that I can. And I can't, do you know what? I like myself.
Yes, I love that.
Yeah,
we need more of that.
Definitely. It's taken a long time. You know, I'm nearly 45 in a couple of weeks, and it does. But I can safely say I like myself, and it feels good to be able to say that.
Perfect way to end. Thank you so much for talking to me. I really enjoyed it, and thank you so much, Karen, for sharing. It's just the work that you do to help others. So thank you very much. Absolutely.
Thank you for having me. Thanks, Rachel.
Pleasure. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Well, another great interview. I really enjoyed talking to Karen, and as always, could talk to her for so much longer. The fact that, you know, what she's been through, she's now sharing those experiences and everything she's learned to help empower other widows, I think is really powerful stuff. And I think when you go and check her out on her social media, you will see that she really is living this new life and thriving and growing all the time. And like she says herself, she's now living a happy life. And I think the positives that she can share and spread with other widows is just so important. So hugely grateful to talk to Karen today. Lots happening on Out of the Bubble. We've got lots of events happening this year, and I'm so excited. It's something that I really wanted to start growing before the pandemic hit. Everything got halted, so it feels good for 2022 to have some events actually in the diary. So the first event we've got happening on May the 18th, which is a fabulous body confidence group lingerie shoot for women over 40. There'll be a maximum of 10 women. There are a few spaces left. And if you're somebody that has really wanted to try a lingerie boudoir shoot, but you've maybe been a bit too scared and not sure whether you could do it, then why not join this group shot where there'll be 10 women all supporting one another, and I will literally be on set to hold your hand. And as a lingerie model, I've had lots of experience now where I can really help boost your confidence on set and give you the best advice on the day, We'll be having a body boosting confidence breakfast, and we'll have professional hair and makeup, time for your own individual shoots, and then we'll have big group shoots. So what a better way to represent women over 40 to show how fabulous our bodies are at midlife. And the next event will also be on the 15th and 16th of June, and that's the Step Out of Your Bubble 2-day retreat. And that's happening at the Acorn Wellness Retreat in North Yorkshire, just outside Harrogate. And it's set in the most beautiful, idyllic location in an area of outstanding natural beauty. And we're so lucky to have this facility to be able to spend 2 days that will really lift and inspire and feed our mind, body and soul. There's lots planned. We have Amber Rose is going to be doing some Pilates and meditation work, and she specialises in working with women over 40 to really set the tone for the 2 days and get us balanced in the right mindset. We'll also have the fantastic motivational speaker Jojo Smith. And after, honestly, 10 minutes of talking with Jojo, you feel like you are a superwoman. She's brilliant at being able to pull out the unique qualities that you have and how you want to show up in this next chapter. Who do you want to be? Who do you want the world to see as you approach midlife? So she's going to be talking to us in the afternoon. We'll also be sharing and being inspired by the beautiful film Be Brave by Joe Mosley, who was actually our first Out of the Bubble podcast guest, and I'm a huge champion of. Joe Mosley began paddleboarding in her 50s, and she went on to create this beautiful film, Be Brave, and it's following her journey of paddleboard in the north. She's the oldest woman to paddleboard from Leeds, Liverpool to Goole. So that was a fantastic film, and it's really moving and inspiring, and it also shows that, you know, there's no wrong age to start new adventures. You don't know where things are going to lead to if you keep an open mind. We'll also have Lucy Dowles, who's a wild swimming expert, coming to teach us about breath work. And she's going to be taking us wild swimming in the local river. And it's just so beautiful. I'm praying that we get nice weather because it's just stunning scenery. And that will be a great experience, with so much in the press right now about how wild swimming is so good for us, not just physically, but also for our mental well-being. So I'm really looking forward to that. And then you'll have some time with me to really boost our body confidence and leave knowing that you've got some tips so that when you are having bad days and when you are having a bit of a wobble, you've got things in place that you can work on. So all in all, you will go away feeling fabulous and restored and have some time for yourself to think and breathe. So that's happening on the 15th and 16th of June. Both those events are on my website, rachelperu.co.uk. And if you've got any questions, just send me a DM on Facebook or Instagram, rachelperu1, and I will always answer your questions. So I'll be back next week. Have a great week.